What if I told you Marvel Phase 4 wasn't completely terrible? What if I told you that despite being the worst Marvel phase, there were some epic moments? Today we're taking a look at the most marvelous moments of the fourth Marvel phase. Now let's just get straight to it. Starting off, we're going to look at the Shang-Chi fight with his father, Wenwu. Shang-Chi, for the most part, was a pretty unknown comic book hero. But what he lacked there, he made up for with his father, the main villain of the movie, Wenwu, also known as the Mandarin. Now, in Iron Man 3, we have the Mandarin, but this wasn't the Mandarin. And this was one of Iron Man 3's biggest criticisms on how they handled the Mandarin character. Now, this movie finally gave us what we wanted after all of these years. Shang-Chi's relationship with his father is difficult, and was more focused on Shang-Chi becoming the next ruler of the Ten Rings and becoming an assassin, rather than just being raised by a loving father. Now, this story is kind of similar to that of the Batman story of Ra's al Ghul, but it has more of a family and a personal segment between the two. And Shang-Chi ran away after his first assignment, but then Mandarin knew where he was the entire time, and this all led to this big fight. After years of grief on both sides, Shang-Chi not knowing what's going on during these 10 years with his father, his sister. As a kid, having to watch people be murdered right in front of him by his father. And then, of course, Mandarin's grief with the death of his wife and coming to terms with that. This led to a massive fight. And this fight was very exciting, and I really liked it. Just the rings and how they used the rings, anything from a whip to like using it as a platform to kick somebody to get that extra leverage, and to everything like shooting ki blasts, if you will. And it was really cool how the rings ended up just going to Shang-Chi's side rather than staying with Mandarin. So this is kind of a very exciting segment, and I really enjoyed this moment, and I think this movie is very underrated when we talk about the Marvel movies. The next segment I want to talk about is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, the introduction to the Illuminati. Now, say what you want about Multiverse of Madness. This movie was a disappointment in many ways, for sure. But one thing I personally liked was the Illuminati scene, and I think it was one of the best scenes of Phase 4. I feel this is what the movie should have been, just going through different multiverses and seeing more of this. Different takes from our favorite comic book characters, and even introducing some established comic book characters like Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. In this scene, we got to see Mordor as the Scientist Supreme, we got to see Peggy as Captain Carter, Black Bolt reprising his role from the TV show, but this time wearing a more comic book accurate costume. We got Captain Marvel, who was a very different person, like completely different cast. And then we got even some fan casting with John Krasinski as Reed Richards and Patrick Stewart reprising his role as Xavier. And then with Xavier, he had that little X-Men animated theme song when he was rolling up in his yellow wheelchair. Even how he used his powers was very reminiscent of that of the 90s X-Men show, and it was a pretty awesome moment. We even get to learn some backstory about how they handled Thanos in this situation and what happened to this Doctor Strange. And then earlier in the segment, they say they're not worried about Scarlet Witch and they can handle her if she started the dream walk. Well, this is exactly what happens, and what happens next is a truly special, fun moment. Just a big fight. Scarlet Witch, dreamwalking versus the entire Illuminati. MCU basically had a reputation of never actually committing any characters dying. Well, except Quicksilver. It seems they've found a loophole with the multiverse, because they can introduce fan favorites that audience will care about, and kill them for an emotional punch, but still not actually affect the story in any significant, lasting way. They kind of get the best of both worlds. And I feel this was great, and if we had more of this, just seeing different comic book characters and different takes, this movie would have been amazing. So now I want to talk about WandaVision. This might not have been a moment, but moments within the show. WandaVision was a very fun first project to start the Phase 4. this was the first project not only in Phase 4, but since the Infinity War ended and since the pandemic. It was a long time without any MCU. And what we got was a mystery of what was going on here, with every episode teasing what happened and different types of teases. Like we got Quicksilver, but it was the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe as opposed to the Quicksilver from Age of Ultron. And then we always started the question like, is this Vision alive? Is Wanda being controlled? Who's controlling Wanda? It was pretty epic, especially once it started to get rolling. I think if you didn't like sitcoms, the first 3 episodes where it was just black and white and very dated, like old school, shall I say, TV references, like sitcom references, I don't know if you would have liked this, but once they got over that hump, it was just amazing from then on. And we just got to see Wanda descend into madness as she was trying to keep up the act. I think everyone was hooked. Like, Marvel was back after this started airing. And I think everyone thought that, hey, if this is what the Disney Plus show is going to be, then we're in for a treat. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but it definitely did start good. And you know, the finale didn't really live up to the hype, but it was super fun to watch everything from like the Halloween episode to Quicksilver to just Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch and everything, and how they even referenced the Scarlet Witch. It was pretty cool stuff, and I'm really excited to see more of Wanda and even the Agatha show that's coming out. And I think WandaVision was a very great show and a great moment for the MCU as a whole. Speaking of Disney Plus, our next entrant is Loki. I think Loki was a lot of fun, and the multiverse really became unglued within Loki. The one particular moment I want to focus on was meeting Kang. So in Loki, there was just a really cool premise of just having a time agency that monitors and paradoxes and makes sure they don't happen unless they're supposed to. And then you had multiple Lokis that all led to who was truly in charge, and this was Kang, and basically the next Avengers level threat. It's kind of interesting to introduce such a big character in a TV show, but it was pretty awesome nonetheless, and we got to learn so much lore of what happened and how there was a universe before even like the Eternals or anything, of just this multiverse war. I think this was really cool, and I think this segment in particular is very, very important, and we'll be watching it back and being just like, holy, it all started with Loki. And even when Kang dies, I do like how he's like, well, whatever, I'll be back. Because he just kind of knows that, hey, he's the only person that can monitor the timeline, and there can't be a multiverse. So I'm pretty interested to see if by the end of everything, if they'll just let the timeline be its thing, let multiverses, or just understand there only needs to be one timeline. So if you did like this video and you would like to see more, please subscribe. Spider-Man No Way Home is maybe just a dream come true for any Spider-Man fan. Like, this whole movie, again, I am kind of shitting as this is not moment, but moments within this movie. You can even say that this might be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame, with so much history, over 20 years of cinema history going into this, as not only did we get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, but even the villains of their respective franchises like Doc Ock and all sorts of special stuff. And you got to see some really fun moments, like when they were making the webs and coming up with their plan, and that was really fun, how they were all interacting with each other. And just how they all, like, the first time the time portal opens and then you see Andrew Garfield walk open and then Toby walks in, and just a huge moment. And this is definitely not only like the best movie in Phase 4, but maybe one of the best top 5 movies in all of Marvel, if not even top 1 for some. I would even be surprised, and I wouldn't blame them one bit. This is definitely the apex of Marvel right here. Thanks for watching. I'll check you guys in the next video.